Hello, I'm Ewan Davidson from Godalming Family Mediation. What I often find is that when I've got clients who are both ready to start the mediation process, they're understandably wanting a bit more information about what might happen during the meetings themselves. What I would say is that it's important to understand that they can be very flexible, the meetings. Some mediators may have a bit more structure, they may have set amounts of time per meeting. What I've found over the years is that it's much more beneficial to be as flexible as possible. So what I would suggest is that certainly at the start of the first meeting, we would try and clarify what issues that you're both looking to discuss within the mediation process. And that's normally relatively straightforward, but when it gets a little bit more complicated is then agreeing which order to discuss those issues. What's really important to understand is that it's your decision as clients, what is discussed and what order that we discuss them. And what we're always looking to do is to give you the time and the space that you need to make those decisions. So sometimes it can be helpful to shorten a meeting and to end it a bit earlier than expected so that you can both go away from that meeting, think about the options that are there, seek some advice or speak to family and friends if you want, and then come back to the next meeting. We can then kind of carry on from where we got to. Equally, what we find sometimes that it makes sense to continue a bit longer than you might have planned initially. If we're in the middle of discussing a crucial point, or we haven't yet quite reached a natural break in the conversation, definitely worth carrying on until we get to that point where you feel that you can move forward with the next step after the meeting. What is also important to consider is whether there are any urgent issues that might need to be talked about. Sometimes that can be upcoming holidays with children. It can be about who's going to make the next mortgage payment. So very important to identify in the initial discussions whether there are any urgent issues. And I would always ask that again at the start of every meeting, just to see whether anything new has come up that we need to deal with first. Having covered all the urgent issues, we can then look at the long term again and start planning for the future. And then get you to the point where you feel you've made as much progress as you can. Then you're able to move forwards from that meeting, often take a lot of steps, whether it be putting a house on the market or trying a new arrangement for the children's living. And then you can come back in a few weeks or a few months, depending upon whatever the time frame may be. Occasionally, there'll be some artificial time frame, such as a court timetable, if you've got a court application in parallel. So really important for us all to understand if there are any external time frames that need to be brought into the mediation process. But generally, I would say the key issue is to make sure you're both comfortable with the timing of each meeting, and you only come back when you're ready to continue with the discussions. So to summarize in terms of the actual meetings themselves, we'd always start by trying to agree which issues that you're looking to discuss during the meeting. We then try and discuss what order to cover those meetings. Sometimes that will mean going backwards and forwards and covering the different meetings until we can make iterative process. And the ultimate goal is to make as much progress as we can with all of those different items until we reach a natural breaking point. And you can then agree the timing as to when to come back for the next mediation meeting. To find out more, please download the free divorce and separation guide from the website. Thank you.